Call to order the Public Improvement Commission, Thursday, April 16, 2015. Public hearing item number 1 on a joint petition by MS Boston Seaport LLC and MS Seaport Block J LLC for the making of specific repairs within Seaport Boulevard, South Boston, located on its southwesterly side, generally between Farnsworth Street and Thompson Place, and consisting of curb, roadway, sidewalk, and pedestrian ramp reconstruction, as well as new and relocated specialty pavement, streetlights, street trees, traffic signal conduit, drainage infrastructure, and irrigation infrastructure. New business, April 2nd, 2015, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, 11 Seaport Boulevard, Seaport Square, Block J, South Boston, one sheet dated November 2014. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. I'm Peter Kohansky from Goulston and Storrs. I'm here on behalf of MS Boston Seaport LLC, which is the master plan developer of the Seaport Square project, and MS Seaport Block J LLC, the owner of Block J, which is before you today. With me is Andrew Albers of Boston Global Investors, John Schmidt of Niche Engineering, Heather Scranton from Haley & Aldrich is here, Guy Busa of Howard Stein Hudson to answer any traffic questions, and Matt Sewell from Reed Hildebrand, the landscape architect, is also here. The approvals we're seeking relate to Block J of Seaport Square. As you'll remember, we've already been before the Commission on a number of blocks within the Seaport Square project. Block J is a parcel of land on the south side of Seaport Boulevard. It's next to the MBTA Silver Line head house on one end, and Block H, which is the location of the new Catholic chapel and a small office and retail building on the other end. The Commission already has approved specific repairs along Sleeper Street and Seaport Boulevard for the Block H project. Block J is the site of a new hotel under the Yotel brand. It's going to be built next to and within air rights above the MBTA head house. We've been working with the MBTA on construction coordination, working very closely with them. The MBTA submitted a letter of support for these actions, which we've sent along. I have hard copies if you need them. The hotel is a micro-unit hotel concept. The building is only about 100,000 square feet, but it will have approximately 326 hotel rooms and a ground level restaurant. I should also mention this part of the Seaport Square project includes one of the significant public realm improvements that are part of the mitigation package for Seaport Square, and that's the Pedestrian Plaza, which is located between Blocks J and Blocks H, and which will connect Seaport Boulevard to Farnsworth Street and the Fort Point neighborhood. The specific repairs that are shown on the plan are consistent with the master specifications for Seaport Square that have previously been presented to the Commission and approved for other projects. And I'll turn it over to John Schmidt to walk you through the plan.
Thank you. As Peter indicated, the design is compliant with the complete street guidelines the city is working towards, as well as the master plan that the Commission has approved about 2 years ago. We have pervious pavers, we have a concrete sidewalk that provides safe and accessible access, new street trees, new street lights, and per the request at new business, the plan has been updated to show proposed parking meter locations and traffic signal push buttons, as well as the mast arm. So that's all been coordinated as indicated on the plan. The CMP, Construction Management Plan, is currently being reviewed by the Transportation Department, and the TAPO was submitted to the city, to Pat Hoey, earlier this week. So we're fairly confident that we've addressed the concerns that were raised at new business.
John, what about the location for a pedestrian traffic signal? Are you going to wrap the...
Well, as far as conduit?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't know. Yes, we show a conduit proposed for BTD for their interconnect services. The final exact location of that will be determined, but it's here and we're committed to providing that.
No laterals, handholds?
I don't believe the design is to that point yet, but we're obligated to commit to provide that, and it will be part of the traffic signal design package that the city will.
I don't know even where the analysis is for the pedestrian work guide. Could you speak to that?
So I'll update you a little on that. we're working on the concept design report for the entire corridor of Seaport Square between East Service and Sleeper Street. So while we were doing that process, a MassDOT project came up for the Oliver Street, Purchase Street. So we're going to make sure we coordinate the traffic volumes that we're using with BTD, BRA, and MassDOT so that we're consistent throughout. So that's going to take a little bit longer, but you should see that report within about a month, I would guess.
Okay, as you know,
Yep.
this has been a topic at the highest levels relative to some
Right.
of the abutters in the area and a lot of the stakeholders
Mhm.
getting very frustrated with the traffic congestion, et cetera, in the area.
Mhm.
Recently had a meeting in the mayor's office with local abutters
Mhm.
regarding exactly that, so we're very eager to get
Mhm.
that report and
Understood.
yes.
Right. Thank you.
Andrew. Sorry, I don't know the answer to this question. As part of this project, will you be resurfacing Seaport Boulevard? What surface improvements will you be doing on Seaport Boulevard itself?
For the actual asphalt portion of it?
Yes.
I believe what's currently contemplated right now is only the sort of the 18-inch strip where we're resetting curb to, where we have to cut back the asphalt. So it's only related to the curb work for this specific scope of work as pertains to Block J itself. And I believe within the master plan there was contemplation of resurfacing, but the medians are going to be pursued as part of the B&C project. And so those are contemplated to be done next summer, I believe. So I believe there will be some resurfacing work after sort of that whole portion north and south of Seaport Boulevard is completed.
So again, I shouldn't say on behalf of the transportation department, but the point I want to articulate here is a lateral connection between the median. John, can you show the folks? Yes, a conduit that runs across that intersection where if you resurface the street and if that is to be put in, you are cutting up a brand new street. So now is the time you want to put that conduit because it's a very short expenditure versus tearing up that street in a point in the future. So that is what we call wrapping an intersection up, not putting the above ground stuff, but the subsurface stuff. So that way, whoever comes to resurface it, you don't have to worry about putting those conduits. Okay? So that's all that is being asked.
I'm also, you said the MBTA review these plans?
Yes.
Yes, the MBTA provided a letter to Amy yesterday citing support for the project.
Okay. Any members of the audience have any comments or observations at this time? Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the joint petition by MS Boston LLC and MS Seaport Block J LLC to make the specific repairs within Seaport Boulevard in South Boston, as described and read to the record by the chair, shown on the plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division. Specific repair plans for 11 Seaport Boulevard, Seaport Square Block J, South Boston. It's one plan and is dated November 2014.
Second.
All in favor? So moved. Public hearing item number 2 on a petition by MS Seaport Block J LLC for the granting of an earth retention license for the installation of a temporary earth retention system within Seaport Boulevard, South Boston, located on its southwesterly side, generally between Farnsworth Street and Thompson Place. New business, April 2nd, 2015, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Temporary Earth Support Plan, Seaport Boulevard, South Boston, one sheet dated April 2015. Good morning again, Peter.
Good morning, Peter Kohansky from Goulston and Stores, here for MS Seaport Block J LLC on a petition for the granting of approval for a temporary earth retention system within Seaport Boulevard. I'll turn it over to John.
The system consists of sheet piles along Seaport Boulevard along the proposed new foundation for the building. They project approximately 16 to 18 inches into the public way. At completion, they will be cut down to be 6 feet below grade. At new business, there was a request to investigate cutting them down 8 feet. We have done that, and it's really adds a lot of more, it's difficult to do and adds cost to the project. It has been this commission's policy to make that cut 6 feet, and we ask that you still maintain that policy. Particularly difficult where as we're abutting the Silver Line Tunnel. It's really a sliver area of land.
Yeah, who's the geotechnical engineer?
Haley and Aldridge?
Are they here?
Yes.
All right, on the Silver Line is a slurry wall, so it's irregular at best. So when you sheet piling down alongside the wall, you're pre-trenching. The issue, is somebody from the MBTA going to be there also while you're doing that pre-trenching? What's happening?
I'll let you guys speak to that.
I guess as ownership, we can speak to that. We are in the process of working with them, and the idea is that while those operations are ongoing, there will be an MBTA inspector on site in case we run into any slurry wall blowouts or anything like that. We know that that has been seen on other adjacent blocks, so I guess recently the MBTA has actually come up with a sort of a standard operating procedure for how to deal with that, and so as part of our project, we would have MBTA personnel on site so that they can alert the right departments if and when anything is encountered.
All right, who's going to be responsible for repairing the blowout? If there is a blowout, who's going to be responsible for repairing it, the MBTA or the project?
I believe the way that it works out is that it's the blowout would get chipped back to the extent that was needed, so long as there's no detrimental impact to the slurry wall itself. I believe most of what they've encountered was, within a foot or so, and they were able to, at least on other projects, they were able to chip it back to the extent that they could then get their excavation and their supportive excavation and go forward. But it would be the contractor that would be working on that with MBTA oversight.
Other than that, that's the biggest concern.
Just on the construction management plan as it relates to, obviously, your earth retention system, just as a preliminary comment from my staff, the plan needs to basically replicate what's out there with the existing work zones. So that should be indicated so we know how both projects, the chapel and the existing Skanska work is fitting in with this plan.
Okay, understood.
Again, any members of the audience have any comments or questions at this time? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by MS Seaport Block J LLC for the granting of the earth retention license for the installation of a temporary retention system at Seaport Boulevard, South Boston. All is read into the record by the chair and shown on plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Temporary Earth Support Plans, Seaport Boulevard, South Boston, one sheet dated April 2015.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. Public hearing item number 3, on a petition by Teleport Communications LLC for a grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install telecommunication conduit within East Street, Boston proper, located between South Street and East Street Place, and servicing 711 Atlantic Avenue. New business, April 2nd, 2015, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, grant of location plan, proposed conduit placement, East Street and South Street, 5 sheets dated January 13, 2015. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is David Edgar. I'm with Sienna Engineering. We are consultants for Teleport Communications America, a wholly owned subsidiary of AT&T. Teleport proposes to install approximately 150 feet of conduit and one 4-foot by 4-foot concrete manhole from the intersection of South Street to the private alley known as East Street Place. At the intersection of South and East, the 4x4 manhole will be placed over an existing Teleport conduit system which was installed in 2009. From that manhole, 2 4-inch conduits and 2 city shadow conduits will be installed to a point where 1 4-inch and 1 city shadow will be capped for future use, and 1 4-inch and 1 city shadow will provide service to the rear of 7 When we were introduced as new business, the commission raised concerns about the steel plates we had proposed. Some concerns about the steel plates we had proposed on top of the trench. The plans have been revised to remove the steel plates, and now we're going to put the 4-inch in the city shadows in FRE conduit. Additionally, we have reduced the amount of the gilsolate insulation material underneath the proposed conduits from 12 inches to 8 inches to gain additional cover above the conduits.
Thank you for that.
Well,
David, will you be submitting us revised plans?
yes, they are.
He submitted them to us electronically, we
My
just didn't
apologies.
have
Nope,
the
no
hard
problem.
copy.
But immediately
Yep,
stamped
and the Mylar will reflect the notebooks.
Thank you for.
So these drawings are still showing us, it's still.
Yeah,
applicable.
so they submitted the plans to us electronically, but we only had that as the hard copy. But we've got a set that shows the plate's gone.
And Amy, I was said will be stamped
Yeah.
and properly processed.
What's the schedule to do this work?
As soon as our contractor can get in there, they'd like to do it, provide service.
Do you have a contractor on board?
Not just yet. Once it's approved, it'll go out to bid. Teleport typically uses 2 contractors in Boston, Murphy and Fahey and Certex.
Just make sure that, you put together a construction management plan so they're not surprised by what work hours or days, et cetera.
Okay.
And get it in the department for.
Sure. We have traffic management plans prepared for this as well.
Now, is somebody from Teleport here?
They are not here today.
We have a letter.
Yes, he's authorized to speak on their behalf.
Any members of the audience have any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Teleport Communications LLC for a grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install telecommunications conduits within East Street, Boston proper, located between South Street and East Street Place, in servicing 711 Atlantic Avenue, and as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant of Location Plan, Proposed Conduit Placement, East Street and South Street, 5 sheets dated January 13th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor? So moved. Thank you, David. Public hearing item number 4 on a petition by Roach Brothers Supermarkets for the granting of a sidewalk cafe license for seasonal outdoor seating within Summer Street, Boston proper, located on its northeasterly side, generally between Washington Street and Hawley Street, and consisting of seating for 22 persons and approximately 452 square feet within the public way. New business, April 2nd, 2015, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Sidewalk Cafe Plan, 10 Summer Street, Boston proper, 1 sheet dated March 2015. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioner. How you doing? Good. Brad Mahoney, Millennium Partners. On behalf of MP Franklin Burnham Co. LLC, we are the developer and the landlord, here to introduce the Roach Brothers Seasonal Sidewalk Cafe. With me today, sitting to my left, Larry Baxter, who is the store manager for the Roach Brothers supermarket that will be opening at the end of this month. Chris Hodney from Niche Engineering, as well as Jim Sperber from Roach Brothers sitting behind me. We've been working with Roach Brothers for 2 years. They'll be opening their flagship supermarket at the end of this month in the former Filene space on the B1 level, as well as a few thousand square feet on the first floor. What they're proposing today, and Chris will explain in more detail, is a sidewalk cafe on Summer Street. Roach has worked closely with the bid. They've reviewed these plans with the City Commission on Disabilities as well as the BRA, and we are excited about this opportunity.
So the sidewalk cafe will be 34 by 15.3 feet in Summer Street in front of the Roach Brothers space. It'll consist of 8 tables with 20 seats available and 2 accessible spaces. There are going to be 2 umbrellas and 2 tables, and those are going to have the 84-inch rear deck. The shape of those has changed from square to octagons on this plan since the last hearing. One other item that has changed since the last hearing was that there's a question came up about an electrical handle on Summer Street, so that's been taken out.
Did you say 8 tables? I see 6.
4 tables here and 2 tables here, that would be 6.
Okay.
Amy, the LMI or the agreement is properly structured to reflect that this cafe is within the
And
street.
non-contiguous? Yes.
Chunk that is properly reflected in the, okay. So if emergency vehicles need to pass by, there's still enough room
Yeah, they've left the appropriate clearances even with the cafe.
because of the height of the buildings that are on either side.
Yep, there's 20 feet there.
Any accommodations for trash? How's that going to be handled?
I know somebody was working with the bid on having a certain type of trash barrel out there. I don't know what the outcome was as far as what they agreed upon, but there will be trash receptacles out there.
And there will also be Roach Brothers staff that will be watching the space and
I'm pretty sure it's the bid who's looking to situate a Big Belly, that's right.
That's as long as,
Yeah, I believe it'll be one of the Vector barrels side by side.
we'll confirm.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I mentioned at New Business, the bid did submit a letter confirming that they're on board with this to my office.
Did you also have a letter from Downtown Crossing?
How you need it? Any members of the audience have any questions or comments?
Good morning, I'm Anita Ocella from the Downtown Boston Bid, and I'll just go on the record to say we're very excited about this happening. We've been working with Roach Brothers and Millennium Partners, and we're excited to see this happen in the spring.
Thank you, Anita. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Roach Brothers Markets, granting the sidewalk cafe license, seasonal office seating on Summer Street in Boston proper. Described and read into the record by the chair and shown on the plan by the City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, sidewalk cafe plan for 10 Summer Street in Boston proper, dated March 2015.
Second?
All in favor? So moved. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Public hearing item number 5 on a petition by AP Channel Center Garage LLC for the widening and relocation of A Street, South Boston, located on its southeasterly side between West First Street and Richard Street. New business, April 2nd, 2015. As shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Widening Plan, A Street, South Boston, one sheet dated March 17th, 2015. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Dennehy and members of the Commission. My name is Emily Yu. I'm from the law firm Locke Lord, and I'm here representing AP Channel Center Garage LLC on this petition. To my left is Eli Long with the owner. And by way of background, the portion of A Street that we're petitioning today is right by the new A Street Park. This park was built in connection with the One Channel Center project that was completed last year. This project included a new office building that has now been leased to State Street, and it also included the construction of a parking garage on the other side, so to the south of where this park is, as well as this park. This park is about 1.6 acres, and since it opened last summer, it's been utilized by members of the neighborhood and of the public. It has many components, from a dog run to community gardening plots to a large grassy field and a basketball court, so it's really been enjoyed by the community. The petition today is to widen the portion of A Street, widen the layout of A Street right along the northern edge of the park. This park was always contemplated by the 100 Acres Master Plan, and it was always contemplated that this particular park would be privately maintained and privately developed, but open to the public. That is still the case. An association of area property owners will continue to maintain this park, but we're in the process of conveying the park itself to the Parks Commission and the Parks Department. In connection with that conveyance, the Parks Department has requested that we, as the developer and owner, petition the PIC to widen A Street so that instead of being along the curb as it is now, the line of A Street would actually run right along the green edge of the park. And we have a plan of the widening. So you can see the red line now runs in this direction. Instead of being straight along A Street, it now runs down, and that is to follow how the park has been built out. And this request was made by the city because there are future plans to eventually widen A Street along this area, although we understand that nothing is set in stone by any means, but this is all being done in an effort to anticipate the future widening. So that's why we're here today. The park has been built out. It is being used. Nothing is changing. This layout will not change the park itself now or in the future, but the city has requested that we make this petition.
Eli, can you flip the... Thank you. The subset of trees that are shown, again, because this is the public hearing, the subset of trees that are shown within the new roadway layout, who will be maintaining those trees?
My client will be, well, I should say a group, an organization of property owners will be maintaining those trees.
And how is that wonderful activity, how is that codified?
There is an
LOI
LMI.
that exists. So
Yeah.
basically, they maintain the park and they maintain the street trees, we're just moving the line in between.
So we have,
Yeah, they've already
Yes.
signed out to maintenance for both.
so the street lights, this is a very existing condition, all we are doing is administrative.
We're widening the street so that when we come back to widen A Street, we don't have to deal with shrinking a park.
Got it, okay.
Any members of the audience have any comments or questions?
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Joe Rogers with the Fort Point Neighborhood Association. I'm joined by my colleague, Sarah McCammond. I have to second the comment about what a wonderful amenity this park has been to the Channel Center and Fort Point neighborhood, as well as several of the other neighborhoods of South Boston. Greatly anticipated and has been greatly put to use in the last year that it's been open. There was some concern, and it was, I think, answered largely by response from the BRA approximately Monday, April 6th. And the concern was that the wording of the announcement for today's hearing was that the widening was imminent. We since have learned, and we would just like to, I think, see some confirming nods, as was stated, that this is not imminent, but is for flexibility for the future if the engineering and finances to widen A Street ever became a reality. Again, that's the community's understanding. We would just like to be on the record as stating that that's how we understand it, again, from responses from the BRA in answer to the neighborhood's concerns. With that said, I think maybe my only final comment is I just walked that park along A Street last night. When the public charrettes were held under the direction of the BRA to plan this park with great community input, one of the points of that double, if you look at the top of that graphic, the double barrel tree line, was to try to create as much a buffer as possible from a very heavily trafficked, including trucks and automobiles, from the park. It is built out in a very intelligent manner with high retaining walls and things like that as a buffer, But the neighborhood would like to just make an observation that when the date and time comes to widen A Street, if it ever becomes a reality, we would like to try to maintain as much of that buffer that the park was designed with. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make, excuse me, I'll make a motion to approve the petition of AP Channel Center Garage LLC for the widening relocation of A Street, South Boston, located southeasterly side of West First Street and Richard Street. All shown on plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division, widening A Street, South Boston, one sheet dated March 17, 2015.
Second.
All in favor? So moved. Thank you very much. First item of new business, 888 Boylston Street, Boston proper. Specific repairs on a petition by BP Prudential Center Development, LLC.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Michael Flannery of Goulston & Stores. I'm here on behalf of BP Prudential Center Development, LLC, an affiliate of Boston Properties and the developer of 888 Boylston Street. With me today are Jay Prouty from VHB Engineering, and behind me are David Stewart from Boston Properties and Brian Chu of McYoung Kim Landscape Architects. 888 Boylston is a 17-story office tower containing lower-level retail uses. It is Phase 4A of the, located in the Prudential Center, and is Phase 4A of the Prudential Center development plan. We're here today for a petition for specific repairs in Boylston Street. I want to note that we have submitted a draft LMIA agreement to the Law Department with respect to those specific repairs, and Jay is going to give you more details about the proposal.
Great. Thanks. So again, as Mike had mentioned, my name is Jay Prouty with VHB. I'll be walking you through the specific repair plan. As you can see, the project is proposing a new vertical granite curve along the existing alignment of Boylston Street. The project is proposing new street bits, double acorn street lights, bike racks, as well as 1.5-foot wide permeable paver strip, 7.5-foot wide concrete sidewalk, and concrete pavers behind the sidewalk. We have coordinated the design with all city agencies, including review and approval by the PRA. Sheet 2 is the detail sheet. I'm happy to answer questions on your sheet.
Jay,
Yes.
17-story building. Are there any additional PIC action items that might be resulting?
Got a pretty large setback.
So your foundation systems, none of those things are going to, no overhangs, zip, nada, okay. I'm not sure whether I want to know the answer to this question. The sidewalk treatment, does it conform to any master plan for Boylston Street or?
Yeah, we actually had extensive coordination with the BRA with that in mind.
Who with BRA, if I may ask? Was that coordination to the best of your knowledge?
David Carlson.
Okay, so David was engaged in the system. Okay. The acorn lights, are they perpendicular to the?
You know what? We just
Just check that thing out, because every once in a while, sometimes things go parallel versus perpendicular.
Okay.
So make sure that the orientation of the double acorns are correct. And your tree pits, I'm too lazy to look at the detail. Do you have a tree grade? Or how is your tree pit?
Yes.
Passive, or what sort of an irrigation system do you propose?
Right. Are we going for irrigation?
No current irrigation.
If you could be kind enough to introduce yourself.
Brian Cho with McYoung.
capacity parks for the project. There are no current irrigation for the creeks. It is an extended pit that goes underneath the sidewalk itself.
Is it structural soil which you are using for it?
It's structural soil.
Structural soil. And John, the maintenance agreement is being currently being reviewed?
Yeah.
From the BTD side, there's an existing bus stop that's not being shown on here, where it's the entrance to the Prudential Center mall. It's very important that you show that on the plan. Additionally, this cab stand is probably one of the busiest cab stands in the city. Boston Police Hackney Division pays special attention to this area based on the volume of cabs that service it. The proposed pickup drop-off will not work. There will be a cab stand. Cabs queue up routinely through there, will be unenforceable, and I suggest that you extend the cab stand to the limits. If you're having managed parking, as in the valet service, then you can basically, manage the curbside space. But the pickup drop-off will not work at this location.
We're proposing valet for certain hours and then pick up drop off for other hours.
The valet is fine because that's managed parking. You have attendants out there that can manage the curb.
Right.
But with the drop-off pickup, it's going to be a cab stand.
So what you're saying is in those off times, cabs will just come right
Absolutely. That's what happens now. I mean, the building's under construction right now, but, in the last 10 years, that's the way it's operated.
David Stewart with Seaport Center Development. All I'd say on that is we're okay with taking that risk. We still like the right to have
I'm not.
and drop off.
It's going to be a constant source of, complaints. And that's something that the Transportation Department's not willing to deal with. It's a cab stand. I mean, putting a drop-off pickup is unenforceable. It's just not going to happen.
Well, respectfully, we believe that the cab stand is adequately sized. It's actually
Did you speak with the Boston Police Hackney Division about the adequacy of the size of the cab stand?
Oh, we can, sure.
I suggest you talk to Captain Goggin and Lieutenant Lima. They're the, Captain Goggin is the head of Hackney Division.
Okay.
And he has lots of concerns about the cab stands in the Back Bay area.
David, while you are standing,
Sure.
your 17-story building, if you could be ever so kind to amplify briefly how it is programmed, starting with your ground floor.
Yep. So it's a...
Just so that the commission members get a sense of what sort of curbside activity might be foreseen in the future.
Sure. So the way the building's designed is it's 17 stories. The first 3 stories on the ground level, 2 and 3 are retail, and from 4 to 17 are office space. So the way we've set up the entryway at the front, obviously you have the crew entry arcade, which is being renovated, so we don't expect any of the pedestrian volume to change there. We do have up to 3 retail entries beside the crew arcade to the right. The main office entry, so for the roughly 360,000 square feet of just office space, is right beside the retail entry. And then there's one final retail entry that's between the office and the Heinz Convention Center, which is essentially replicates the entry that's there today that gets people up into the food court.
David, do you anticipate any restaurants being on the ground floor, thinking forward to the need for a sidewalk cafe that might go along with such a restaurant, that might impact how your sidewalk is being designed and programmed right now?
That's a good question, and as Amy pointed out, the building's set back fairly far from the...
So you can accommodate the sidewalk cafe in your space?
Yeah, we have at least 100 feet. So if you're familiar with the town patio that's out there, that's actually on our property, and it's on private property. So we don't anticipate anything in the public way. Quickly show you. This is just a plan of the plaza. So this is a plan view here. So you can see here's the building facade. The streets here, and the property line's roughly here. So there's a whole area of programming that's all private property that has plenty of space for that.
just also to Para's point, the valet only comes into play if there is a restaurant.
Correct.
That's the criteria.
Yep, that's all we're asking for.
Right.
But again, it is really important to our, as you know, the Prudential Center, one of the downsides of the Prue Tower is it doesn't have a street drop-off. You say, where's the Prue Tower? It's 800 Boylston Street. There is no 800 Boylston Street. So part of the benefit of this building and what our customers are anticipating is having somewhere where they can have a car drop them off or pick them up and walk in the entrance to the building, because the main lobbies on all of these buildings at the Prudential Center, they're all on the second level. This one has a street entrance, which is extremely important to us.
Does the stairs that take you up to the food court have an accessible route as well?
Yes, we're putting in 2 escalators and an elevator.
So no residential units, just business clients with a remarkable street address of 888 Boylston.
Correct.
You will be able to very easily market that.
We're trying.
I'm sure you know.
Thank you.
So taking into Mr. Hedford's comments into account, do you think 2 weeks will be enough time? Rectify the, okay. We'll see you for a public hearing on April 30th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to say one other thing. I appreciate your help this week with the Boston Marathon setup. The contractor did a wonderful job. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Second item of new business, Lexington Street at Concord Avenue, Charlestown. Grant of location on a petition by Crown Castle NG East LLC.
Good morning. My name is Bob Albee with VHB, representing Crown Castle. And as usual, it's always a pleasure to be here. With me is Richard Shepard, who's the project manager for Crown Castle, who's going to explain the need for this minor petition.
Thank you. My name is Richard Shepard. I'm project manager for Crown Castle. Just as a point of background, Crown Castle is currently expanding their cellular infrastructure within the city of Boston, as well as some surrounding cities. Included in that infrastructure on December 18th was a public hearing that approved 11 node locations, 8 utility poles, and 3 streetlights, as well as various locations of conduit. There was intended to be a 12th location in that package, but it was discovered at the 11th hour that the original proposed location was on a private way, which was Concord Ave. So we've relocated that location to the corner of Concord Ave and Lexington Street. And the location has been reviewed and approved by Eversource as well as Verizon. And the existing conduit that was approved on December 18th can be utilized to serve this location. So there isn't any additional conduit being requested. The only thing that's requested on this petition is the location of the node.
Richard,
Yes.
that corner, you got a private way.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a building right next to the private way? Basically what I'm trying to understand is with this new pole, with all these telecommunications, is it right next to someone's building?
Well, there are buildings nearby, of course, but we feel that, you know, from a clearance perspective, as well as because this is a pole top mounted antenna, that the clearances are acceptable. We're working at about 20 feet back from the actual pole itself.
Again, I apologize if I have not asked for this in the past, but before the public hearing, could you be ever so kind to send us photographs from a necessary vantage point so that commission members can get an understanding as to the proximity of this pole to the closest building or residential unit.
Okay. And another thing that's important to point out is that the current pole that's there is leaning significantly and has actually been condemned by the utility companies. And because of this project, we've identified that and it will be replaced and a new pole will be set. The other good side to that is that we will be pushing for the removal of the double pole, because until that happens, we can't place our equipment. So you have sort of a third party involved in the process to kind of move that process along. I'd be happy to do that, provide pictures.
In prior instances, when we install poles of this nature, do we require any type of contact with the immediate abutter, notification or anything? If we haven't done
It's an
it,
existing pole location, so it's the
but
pole.
the type of infrastructure is different versus I got a pole that is just carrying wires
So
versus
the pole holds the granite location, and we're really just amending that by capping it with an antenna.
Okay.
So the granite location is what gave the pole
what the
permission to
pole.
be there.
Okay. So just because the use of that space might change
Right, so
ever
like,
so
and we
slightly,
don't notify them every time we attach to it either.
but do send us a photograph.
I'd be happy to.
Staff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the height of the existing pole now?
Well, it's a 40-foot pole, so it's set 6 feet down, so it's about 34 feet.
So we're adding just
The antenna would be on the top, so we'd add another 4 feet to the top of the pole.
has the direct abutter, the building that's in front of you, I guess would be behind you, have they been notified? Has anybody talked to them at all?
No.
I think that's the.
Yeah, I mean, since the existing pole is 34 feet, I'm not too concerned, but,
If this ever becomes something where you're looking out your window and you're gonna see something new, that's generally when we start notifying the abutters. Otherwise, we're gonna get a whole line of people who say, no, not on the pole in front of my house. So if it's something that they're gonna notice, we require the notification, but if it's a pole topper, it's, they shouldn't really notice once it's up.
Amy, if you could help us out on the front before the public hearing, hopefully they will take the photograph, or you can make an assessment as to the proximity of this pole and its new attachments to anything that might be a concern as to fellow commission members. And if so, make sure that there is some sort of a dialogue, not consent.
Right.
Okay, some sort of notification so that it doesn't
If
become.
they'll notice, we'll send them registered now.
What is extremely noticeable out there in the photograph when we bring it in is the 25 to 30% lean in the pole.
They'll notice it.
And if I live
in the new
behind that,
pole,
it's
or then they'll notice the antenna that shows
So
up on top.
pretty
just
ugly.
to, and Mr. Albee, if you are, since you have put that comment on the record, convey that sentiments to the pole owner simultaneously, so that if there should be a future liability, all parties have been duly notified, including the pole owner, that you have a concern about the fact that it is leaning 25 degrees.
Yeah, they've already surveyed it, and the pole has been slated for removal because of this project. We had actually obtained attachment permit to that pole for a aerial fiber attachment. So prior to the relocation, that location required an aerial attachment. That survey deemed that pole in need of being replaced. So, and because of it being condemned. So it's actually, there's a work order that's outstanding.
So give us
right now.
those notes
Sure.
that this may be in need of attention.
Absolutely.
we have a pretty bad history with double poles. You know, we've got a lot of areas on them. All right, who owns the double poles? And are you gonna be able to remove them in order to put this one in?
They're gonna have to pursue them in order to get them to reattach to the new one.
So I'm gonna have 3 poles out there for another 5 years?
No, there won't be 3 poles. The pole that's being set will be the new pole that the equipment gets set on. And until the old pole gets removed, we can't set our new equipment on the new pole. So there's not 2 poles there now, there's only one.
Well, there's one now.
Yeah, there's one now that's leaning. We're gonna get a
They
nice.
can't really go forward until they've moved all of the lines. So in this scenario, we have somebody who's pursuing them from the bottom up or the.
Yeah, until the work order is completed, the attachment license won't be granted, and until that happens, we can't attach.
So all the transfers have to be made from the old pole to the new pole, then our equipment
We
goes
want
on.
antennas on every double pole.
And is, you know, I mean, obviously this one's leaning, you know, has anyone surveyed the area? Is the next one leaning 25% also?
I can say that any of the poles that Crown Castle has petitioned to the telephone company Verizon and Eversource, they have been surveyed, and any pole that is in need of from a safety or maintenance perspective to be replaced has been addressed as being replaced.
But you're not attaching to the next pole. Can we just take a look at it? Because if the next pole is...
I did take a look at the next one down the street, and I think the reason this one is leaning over is because it's a corner. They're coming up the street with the lines, going down the street with the lines. The next one down was the one we planned on going on to, but that's on the private way, but that was straight and that was fine.
John?
Yeah, I have one more question. Once you replace a pole, who is going to maintain the new pole?
The pole still maintains ownership by NSTAR, Eversource, and Verizon.
Do you have a letter from them? They agree for your attachment?
Yes, we do.
Great.
I think we need a letter, we need a letter from NSTAR, because obviously it's their pole, it's going to be removed, and they're the ones that are going to be responsible for a lot of the reattachments. So we should get a letter from NSTAR authorizing you to do this work, basically.
Would the pole attachment license, a copy of that license, suffice?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, so the license should be between Crown Castle and the City of Boston. We still need a letter from the pole owners to stating they agree you attach your equipment to the pole.
My question is,
Copy
let
of
me
the agreement you
rephrase
have
it.
with them is fine.
Yeah, is the license that we have with...
Yeah, that's fine, that's
Eversource,
fine.
what's a copy of that? Okay, great, we have that.
Should this be a joint petition if Eversource is going to own the pole?
No, because they do have an agreement with them, and this is something that's like, a project that's continually building out. So they have kind of a blanket agreement, and then they go and they get approval for each pole, and then they come here and get approval for each pole.
Will 2 weeks be enough time?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll see you on April 30th for a public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Third item of new business, 170 West Broadway, Athens Street, South Boston. Pedestrian easement, specific repairs, temporary earth retention, on a set of petitions by 170 West Broadway LLC. Good morning.
Good morning. Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, 131 Oliver Street here in Boston. With me today is David O'Sullivan from O'Sullivan Architects. He's the architect on the project. First of all, just want to thank both Todd and Amy for their help so far and their patience with us as we get to this point of the project. We're looking forward to working with them further as we finalize this aspect of a pretty involved project. I'd like to give you a little bit of background, if you don't mind. This is the site of the former Liberty Bell Roast Beef Restaurant in South Boston. Don't hold that against us that we're taking it down. The property site is about 17,000 square feet of underutilized land. It's got a single-story restaurant building surrounded by an asphalt parking lot, really no landscaping. It's a pretty underutilized lot at this point in South Boston. It's bounded by West Broadway at its front, Athens Street at the rear, and it has an adjacent public way known as Gardner Place, which is accessible from West Broadway. The immediate area at the front of the property on West Broadway is predominantly commercial, and the uses along Athens Street at the rear are mostly residential. The project, it's the demolition of this existing building. It's a construction of a new 33-unit mixed-use residential building, retail restaurant space on the ground floor, 39 on-site garage parking spaces. It's a condominium project. We'll have 4 affordable units. Just so you know where we are in the process as well, we've successfully gone through the BRA Article 80 process, small project review. We got a vote of approval back on July 10th. And we've also gone through the zoning board process with a vote of approval in August of last year. The project was the result of 8+ months of extensive and positive community outreach. We did have full community support for the project from abutters, the neighborhood association, elected officials, and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. So that's where we are in the overall process. For petitions today, we're in front of you for a pedestrian easement along Athens Street. That was part of that extensive community outreach. They asked for that pedestrian easement, specific repairs, and a temporary earth retention. And I'll let David go over the plans in a little more detail.
Thank you.
David Ocella. This is this building's around the neighborhood, it's across the street from the housing project on West Broadway. That block is pretty much one-story commercial. Athens Street is a typical South Boston, very narrow street, and has a 3-foot sidewalk. So this is Broadway. This is the proposed building. It fronts on Broadway. The back is on Athens Street. This is Gardner Place. It runs adjacent to our property. One of the issues related to the back, we already asked, Athens Street is a very narrow sidewalk, so we're basically giving that easement to get a 5-foot sidewalk along the back of ours. We also saw our building back so we can put some landscaping on our property along Athens Street as another amenity. The petition for the front, the specific repairs would be to repair the sidewalk in Athens, but widen it, straighten it out. And then presently there's a couple curb cuts and a curb cut for Gardner Place. We're going to move one curb cut down for our service entrance, eliminate the second curb cut, and widen the Gardner Place one so that our cars can go up the side of our property and into the back, the parking garage. Building based on Athens is 4 floors with a penthouse, stepping down to 2 floors, 2.5 floors in the back. See the retail on the first floor. Around the side is our garage entrance and our residential entrance kind of front on the Gardner Place. I guess we have all the things. The earth retention is probably the one we are going to be basically excavating, coming back on the sidewalk, approximately 4 feet back, 4.5 feet down to get to construct our foundation along the front of the building, and then we'll backfill it after we're done. This also has gone through public transportation department. We have a construction management plan that's approved and signed off for this project and dealing with all the deliveries, etc.
David, sorry. David, you had one of your boards that showed the pedestrian easement with the trees. Yes, that one.
Yeah.
So David, let's start on Athens Street. You are giving us a pedestrian easement.
Right.
Now, will that be just for the length of your project?
Yes.
So, to the left and the right of Athens, if a pedestrian is experiencing that sidewalk, you get a more of a generous sidewalk suddenly in front of your property, and then you lose it again.
Right. The sidewalk in front of the buildings heading up this way on Athens is about 3 feet. Some of the buildings are set on the sidewalk, some are back in all existing buildings.
So when these projects go to the community now, they almost inevitably ask for that wider sidewalk, at least on one side of Athens Street.
Piano accordion.
Right, so I mean, the ones that have already gone, they didn't widen the sidewalk, and that's kind of what it is, but.
There will be the project next to us coming down this way.
Hopefully carries this.
Is under VR, has been approved by VRA. I believe they have the same kind of widening. They're building a setback as well.
Now the tree line, you're showing some trees over there, David. Are the trees within the easement area or?
No, these are on our property.
On your property,
So
excellent.
all the landscaping is on our property. We are proposing street trees in the front, the sidewalk.
So the 4 trees on the Broadway side,
Yes.
the property is to your left and right again. I don't recall seeing any trees along.
There's a street tree right here, just off our property. There's an existing one that happens to be right next to our entrance that has died, which Parks has given comments on. And I believe there's another one down in front of like 150. So there are some street trees along Broadway.
So this is not going to just stick out as
No,
it.
They're just irregular at this point.
And Are those trees competing with our street lights? I don't recall the type of street lights we have on that side.
I don't believe so. I'm just trying to remember.
If you could check that.
The street
They're-
light is here.
Brand new LEDs, they're ornamental poles.
So the trees are here, and up from it is the street light.
Yeah.
The trees are down here.
Just make sure you have 15 feet
Feet
between trees and
clearance.
streetlights.
Okay, I'll confirm that.
Because the plume of the trees shouldn't compete with the light layout.
All right, let me confirm that dimension. Looks
And
like
the-
we're about that,
Yeah.
but I'll
The
confirm.
trees, do they have a tree? How is the tree pit structured? With a grate or is it an open pit?
We basically have, we've worked with the BRA on what that needs to be, and we're also going to be reviewing that with Parks. They asked for a final review of that grading action.
But you will be maintaining the trees and the tree pits, right?
We are maintaining the trees.
So if it is mulch and if the mulch gets out, you will look after that. If it is a grade and the grade gets.
We'll basically take care of the trees and the.
I think the only question I have is residential trash and recycling collection. We do it both on Athens and on West Broadway, both on Thursday. Just wondering what the plan is for collection.
We have not done, we have nothing on Athens. As part of our agreement with the neighborhoods, we wouldn't be going in and out on Athens.
All West Broadway.
We do have, within the building, trash facilities. So I haven't talked to the developer yet on whether we ask the city to pick it up or whether, I think it's going to be too much with the 33 units. So our anticipation was that it would be something that would be picked up by a private contractor from the trash room within our building.
From a public works perspective, any building over 6 units, we ask that you recycle. If you do that, we'll pick you up
Yeah,
once a week.
recycling and
That,
then trash.
that would be Thursdays. Just something to consider.
The excavation you're using for, to get down to your foundation level now, you're not showing any support. What are you planning on doing? We plan on putting in an angle, you cut, or you?
From an engineering standpoint, this is only coming out about halfway across the sidewalk.
It's a 4.5 foot cut. You're gonna have some type of support.
All right, I talked to the contractor, he said this would be fine, but I'll get that clarified before.
No, you're gonna have to support.
Yes. Okay, so we'll show some temporary shoring on the.
Loss all for the support, right?
Yeah, you'll have to,
We'll show temporary shoring on the final plan.
the other thing is you have a payphone. Whose payphone is that? And who's gonna maintain it?
Is it in the sidewalk or attached to the building?
To the side.
It's on the sidewalk in front, but I don't believe it's working.
Yeah, I mean, I get emails all the time on
Me
graffiti.
too. We can't get rid of payphones is the long and the short of it. They're a protected,
But somebody has to own it, and how are we gonna?
we don't know who owns the phones because they've been bought and sold since we've allowed them to go out there. So all of Verizon's payphones were given or sold to PTS, and there are one known dealer of payphones, but if it didn't start as a Verizon phone, we don't know whose it is, and we don't really have a good way of tracking that down. So we're working on a program to basically cite all payphones and then say that the city's inventory and then start systematic removal if we don't hear back from a payphone owner.
So
There's no phone there on there right now?
I don't know, I mean, I know one time I looked and it wasn't working, I think there's a phone there, but it wasn't working. It is to remain, it's not any place that we're disturbing.
I'm just looking for maintenance.
Yeah, no, they also, they're a little tricky to remove because of the live aspect of what we find and how to kind of tie off those connections when we do remove them. It's not as simple as just picking it up and taking it away.
We could put that in a construction management plan and it'll be part of the process.
Process, exactly.
It's put in,
Whoops,
it's
where'd
in
it
the
go?
plan to be made, to
And
be
put some concrete.
protected and remain, so.
So
We'll stack it.
we as a city gave a license to Verizon to put these payphones in at some point in time. Can we write Verizon a letter just asking them?
So Verizon's out of the payphone business. They sold all of their phones to PTS, or the PTS cherry-picked the ones that they wanted from the network, and the rest have been either privately installed, not by Verizon, or, so like if you call Verizon, they'll tell you they don't own any payphones. If you call PTS, they'll tell you which ones they own, and if this isn't on the list. I mean, like, I've been to several payphones at this point, and I look for all of the information, and I start calling people. And some of these payphones are privately owned, which I didn't even think was a possibility, and are just owned by an individual. So like, then it's further complication, because if there's no phone in the booth, then it's live, but there's no information to even tell you whose phone was there to begin with, which is, I believe, what they're doing.
And Amy, all of this stuff is within the public right of way managed by the Public Improvement Commission.
Unless it's attached to a building, and then it's Gary's problem.
They make wonderful public space trash receptacles.
Commissioner, to answer the question, the payphone should be maintained by the owner of to the payphone. The owner can be you and me, can be a phone company, can be to whoever. They're supposed to be to register in the Department of Telecommunication and Cable. So if you want to find out, they have to go there to track them down. Like Amy said, you know, a lot of those people get into the business cannot be found. It's just like a infrastructure in the city street, but somehow they can be interconnected to someone else. So it's kind of tricky to remove them. We're working on something to deal with them.
I have a long-term goal to attack all payphones at once.
Yeah, I mean, that just, the long-term.
Short-term.
The long-term effort that the city should have is that whenever we give any type of a license to that applicant only, no one has a right to sell.
Right, so we're not giving out any more payphones and nobody's asking for them. It's really just that we're dealing with the sins of the past at this point. Our licensing for payphones is a Polaroid album. So we need to have, and that's just the person who installed it. So we don't have a good chain of ownership for a lot of these. So we're working on kind of a citywide inventory to kind of go and inventory anybody, and you tell us what is active and you want to keep, and then we're just going to start getting rid of the rest of them.
Tom? See if the law department can review the original dialogue or the agreements the city had with Verizon, especially their transfer clause. If there was no transfer clause, then I find out whether the city can revoke any future owner who doesn't register themselves with the city, because that might allow the city to take unilateral action on any sold or unsold asset that is no longer within the purview of Verizon.
We just run into trouble because it's a protected communication, because it's considered a public safety. Because back in the day, you didn't have to have your own phone, but everybody had access to a public phone. Times have changed, but the laws haven't, so they're protected.
Was there not a proposal recently, I forget who came before us, that they're looking to, is these payphone locations to turn them into
Wi-Fi
hotspots?
hotspots. Those are the PTS ones that they bought it from Verizon. They are actively maintaining all of the assets, and when we call them, they are responsive. So if it's a PTS phone, it's fantastic because they're continuing to maintain them, and their long-term goal is to hook them all up to Wi-Fi.
Any non-payphone questions, Steve?
Just on the CMP, what engineer from my staff reviewed that?
Signed by Dan Tesford.
He's an old guy.
Didn't even look at your name. It was done quite well.
Jeez.
August.
Okay, with Mr. Motion's concern about the retention and just making sure that the trees are at a proper length away, you think 2 weeks will be enough time? Great, okay. We'll see you for a public hearing on April 30th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
First idea.
Try to get